Hi everyone. I'm just waiting for Tanya to join us when she comes on, whenever, hopefully soon. Yay! There we go. We made it.
Oh, finally. Oh my God.
Hi.
Hi. Oh my God, my first live ever.
Yo, sorry.
My first live on Instagram
Oh
ever.
yeah. Very exciting.
Fine. So how are you?
I'm good. I'm off today, which is nice. So I get to rest a little bit. I brought my dog for a little hike this morning, so that was nice. How are you
Okay,
today?
so I'm also off, so I'm really good. I was actually preparing for this the whole day. I'm quite nervous, so I hope we'll be able to answer as many questions as possible so we can help them.
Yes, sounds good.
Yeah, maybe we can start with a little introduction. Can you tell us a bit about your background and everything?
So I'm Cynthia. I'm a non-US IMG. So I was born in Malaysia. I grew up in Australia. I did medical school in England, and I am now a PGY1 anesthesia resident in the US. How about you?
Nice. That's really impressive. So I'm from Serbia. It's a country Southeastern Europe. Most of the people didn't hear about it. I graduated medicine over there. Medicine is 6 years long. And after I graduated, I started preparing actually for steps. And now I passed step 1, step 2, OET. And now I'm dealing with ERAS application, personal statement, requesting LRs. So whoever is preparing the same thing, they understand me. And you also understand me. Of course, you did the same last year. So yeah, that's me.
So we're here today to talk about being non-US IMGs, because like coming to the US from a non-US country is just, I mean, it's common for some people, but not always common for a lot of people. So I think we're just going to talk about that today, talk about how we overcame that, and yeah, how everyone else who are watching us today can overcome that, and how they can come to the US eventually as well.
Yeah, actually, I would say personally that was my biggest struggle because nobody from my med school was preparing for USMLE. So it was actually the biggest challenge for me to find the proper information about the process. I was not familiar at all with USMLE. I actually thought that you're just supposed to pass steps and that's it. The residency is yours. I was really surprised when I found out what else we have to do, that we have to find clinical rotations and everything in US. So my advice would be internet is your best friend, but also internet can be also full of misinformation. And it's really important to do that because I joined many Facebook groups for USMLE prep. I also read a bunch of forums and it can be really helpful. But on the other hand, when you read a post that says that IMG who don't score 240, 250, just quit it. Just don't even try it. You're not worth it. That can be quite discouraging. So
Yeah.
I think that's why it's important to have someone from your med school to go through this journey with you. Otherwise, you can just get discouraged many, many times after reading posts online. I don't know, did you have similar experience with that?
Definitely. So same thing as you. When I decided I wanted to do the USMLE, no one in my med school had done it. And I didn't know where to start. Like you said, internet was my best friend. I Googled, I looked for people who have done it from the UK because no one in my med school had done it. And I was like, oh, okay. I found one person on Twitter and I tweeted him, then sent him an email. So back then, like you don't have things like social media where everyone's sharing their journey. So I was like, oh, like what do I have to do? I don't know what I have to do to come to the US. Like what things do I need to look into? And then I joined forums like Reddit and Student Doctor Network. And they were super discouraging because they're like, like you said, if you don't score 260 or 270, forget it. Don't even apply. And I can safely say that I didn't score 260 or 270, and I'm now a resident in the US. So, like you said, it's important to see like important things, like take in the important things, and then the things that are discouraging and stuff, just take it with a grain of salt.
Exactly. That's the truth. And I like to hear stories like yours so you can encourage other people and they can see it is possible. So if you had lower score, it's just a score. Like you can add so many different things to your application that will make you a very good applicant and very impressive applicant. And I just think IMG tends to just focus on scores and they forget everything else. I was the one who was just so focused on the score. And now when I'm like this far away in the journey, I just realized how many other things I could do as well to improve my application. So I just think it's important for IMGs to remember that that score does not define you. That's you. That's not you. It's just a score that you had. Yes, like it's nothing else.
Yeah.
It can help you, of course, you know.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Like you know, when I got my step 1 score back, I like cried. I was so upset because I was like, oh my gosh, I'm never gonna make it to the US now. You know, such a like disappointing score. And then like people telling you like if you don't score a high score, you don't bother applying. So I was like, oh, what do I do now? And you know, how do I go from here? And like you said, there are so many other ways to work on your application. It's not just your step scores.
Exactly. And I think it's really important, which is my biggest mistake, I believe, and I hope people will hear this and don't repeat my mistakes, is that I just didn't reach out to people soon enough. I actually started this Instagram page recently, but during my journey and during my preparation, I was alone. And I didn't bother to reach out because in my head, it was, they don't know me. Why should they help me? They will just, and I sent actually too many emails that I didn't get a response and I got discouraged. And actually, I'm so happy to Resident because thanks to them, I met you. I met so many wonderful people online that are really ready to help. And I think it's really important to reach out to people as soon as possible because there are very, very wonderful people who are ready to help.
Yeah, definitely. And like you said, there's this huge IMG community, people who have matched, people who haven't, people who are going through the match process, and everyone's just kind of supporting each other and want to be there for each other and help each other. So it's so important to reach out to people and be like, hey, I'm doing this, I'm doing the USMLE, I'm going through this journey. You know, like, what are your advice and tips? And obviously, there are so many different advice and tips out there, and everyone has different advice. But it's important to take what you feel would work for you. And other advice, you can take it at some. If the ones that don't work for you are there, like, it's fine. You don't have to take everyone's advice. But it's good to know that there's a community and support out there.
Exactly. So I was thinking maybe we can discuss our step preparation. If you can tell us something more about your step 1 and step 2 prep. How long did you study for it? Resources, any struggles you had to overcome?
Okay, so mine will probably be quite different to yours. So like I'll go through mine and then you can go through yours. So for me, I set step 1 in my like equivalent to the US MS 3 years. So I was doing clinical rotations. So I was going to hospital every day and I was coming home studying for my UK like exams and my UK med school stuff. And then on top of that, I was doing a couple of hours a day to study for USMLE. So it took me 8 months to do step 1 because I didn't have much time. I had maybe 1 or 2 hours a day to study for step 1. And for me, my main resource was UWorld. And then on top of that, I used like First Aid, Boards and Beyond, and Pathoma for anything extra that I needed. And that was really helpful because, you know, like UWorld was like the basis of like questions and things like that was as similar to the USMLE. And then anything that I didn't understand, I used those supplemental resources to kind of brush up my knowledge. So that was step 1. And then step 2, I set it after medical school. And it only took about 2 months to prepare for it because I wasn't doing as much then. I didn't have the other exams. So just 2 months, and I only used UWorld for step 2, and that was, I felt, more than enough. What about you?
Yeah, actually, it's not quite different. I also prepared around 8 months for step 1, but I actually did not work. So actually it took me longer. And I think I actually wasted a lot of time because I didn't start with the proper resources. I started with Kaplan Notes, which I think it's amazing resource for studying, but for me personally, I think it was not necessary. And I just wasted a lot of time trying to study from those notes, which are huge. And I also started with UWorld way too late in my preparation. So I think the best advice would be, as you said, just to start with UWorld as soon as possible and just to supplement state And I think that's enough for preparation. You can add some other resources. I also used Sketchy Micro, which is really, really
Yes, that's
helpful.
right. I used that too. I forgot about that.
And some other, like, I'm not even sure. I didn't use Boards and Beyond. I know that. I think Sketchy Micro and Anki flashcards. I used those flashcards. That was good. And then after step 1, I prepared for step 2 around 3 months, but it was actually 4 months because of pandemic. I had to reschedule my test 6 times. And I'm not sure if I'm happy or not about it, because, you know, you just want to finish with it.
Yeah.
And step 2 was actually, I had better experience with step 2. It was not that hard on me as step 1. It's just clinical questions, and your world is so long. It has so many questions, but still I had a feeling that it's way easier to study for step 2 comparing to step 1.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. Like step 2 was a much doable exam than step 1 was for me.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I also just wanted to add, you were saying, you know, start with UWorld early. Like I think a lot of people are afraid. They're like, oh, if I buy UWorld, it's so expensive, and then, you know, the time, like if I use up the time, then what happens? So maybe I'll wait and study, then I'll buy UWorld. But really, I agree with you. Like start UWorld from the beginning. Even if you get your questions wrong, don't think of it as like you're doing an exam or a question, but rather like it being an educational tool. Because even if you get it wrong, it teaches you so much. Every question teaches you so much.
Exactly. I think a lot of people don't look at UWorld as a learning tool. And it's exactly that. Like, you're learning from UWorld. It doesn't matter the number of correct questions and answers you get. It doesn't matter. Like, you just have to learn and to make notes from UWorld and just to start as soon as possible.
Yeah.
I think I prepared so long because I waited like 4 months into my preparation to start with UWorld, just not good.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Because I was like, oh, you know, and then people, like, including myself, we get so upset about our UWorld scores. We're like, oh, you know, we only got like 52% or whatever. And then it bogs us down and we feel like this is a reflection of how we're going to do in our exam, but it's not. The UWorld is just like a learning tool. Don't think of it as your reflection of what your exam's going to be.
Exactly. And you will see after your first pass, that percentage will go up and up because you're improving your knowledge all the time. And then you'll be surprised, like your second pass or even, I don't know, third pass who has time, like it's going to be better and better. Yeah. And then when you do self-assessments, you'll see you'll do fine. So just start as early as possible with your world. That's like the biggest advice here for tours.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And when you were studying for step 1 and step 2, like how did you find support, and how did you, like, you know, how did you get through it? Because like for you and for me, no one else in our medical school was doing it at the same time as us.
Yeah, well, I had great support from my family and friends. They were amazing. They were wonderful. They still are. But the thing is that they're not in medicine, so they couldn't really help me. I actually needed some colleague or medical student who is studying for the same test, so I can complain about things I don't know, so we can discuss some topics, we can review things together. And I really believe that's extremely important, to have someone who is going through the same thing. And I did try to reach out to some people online, but I was not lucky actually to find some study partner that is studying like in same pace as I am. So I did study alone. So I'm not sure. I was not alone. I did have my family, but I still felt I'm alone because I was studying all myself. And I would just encourage people to reach out online. Even the first person you meet, it's not good enough. Good, okay, reach out to the second person, third person, and you'll find some study partner. You can do Zoom meetings, Skype meetings. It's really going to help you. Like, it's really important to study with somebody. I think support also, you will learn easier and everything else. I think it's really important. How about you?
Yeah, I agree with you. Like, you know, it was, and for so many people who are listening and people who are applying to the US, like a lot of times we feel so alone going through this process because most people don't, like a lot of people don't leave, you know. For me in the UK, a lot of people wanted to stay in the UK and work as a doctor there instead of coming to the US. So when I told people I was doing the USMLE, they were like shocked. They were like, oh, why? You know, why are you doing the USMLE? That's so crazy. It's such a hard exam. So yeah, like a lot of my studying was on my own, and like you, I felt very alone. I felt very isolated because I felt like no one understood what I was going through, and no one knew what it meant to study for the USMLE on top of doing everything else. And I'm sure a lot of people would relate with that and understand that. And just to all of you guys who are listening and everyone else who will be watching this, like, you're not alone. Like, there's so many of us out there, and like Tanya said, go online to find study partners on Skype, on Zoom, or on Instagram, because now people are trying to support each other and study together.
Exactly. We are doing the same on our Instagram page. I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to answer almost all the questions. I know you're doing the same, because I think we just know how it feels when you're alone. And then I just don't want anyone to feel that way. Like, you can text me with your USMLE questions if you need any kind of support, or if you have some questions about studying. I think we're both here to help, and we'll try to help
definitely.
you.
Yeah, and I think we also just wanted to talk about how we felt after the exams, right? Like, that was an important thing to talk about, because that's a message and DM that I get a lot about, you know, oh, I got my exam results back today and this happened, or like, I'm so upset, I feel hopeless, I feel very depressed. I think it's so normal after the USMLE exam to feel completely defeated. After sitting the exam, you're going to come out, you're going to feel like, okay, I probably felt that, which is what I felt. And I think that's what you felt. Like, I came out and I cried. I was like, oh my gosh, I failed it. Like, I'm going to have to resit this whole exam. But like, it's so important to give yourself credit. It's a 9-hour exam, and you said it, and you like, you know, and then when you get your results back, you actually passed it. Like, whatever the result is, you passed this 9-hour exam. That is completely different to your curriculum and not what you're used to doing. So as upsetting as it feels when you come out of it, it's just important to remember that it's a huge exam that you pass.
Exactly. I felt exactly the same that you just described. It's 9 hours exam. I remember for the last 2 or even 3 blocks, I had a feeling that I'm not even reading the questions. My focus just disappeared, and I was so nervous. And when I finished with the exam, when I exit the Pragmatic Center, I just called my mom and I said, so I failed and I don't have a backup plan. No, like, I was completely 100% sure that I failed completely. And then those 3 weeks, because of course you have to wait your results for 3 weeks, I waited even longer. For some reason, I waited 5 weeks, the worst 5 weeks in my life. And then I got a result. And I was so, how to say, I was already prepared that I failed, and I already started making plans what to do now with my career, with my future. And then I got kind of good score. I'm satisfied with my score. And I was so surprised. I was like, okay, now I have to study for step 2. Maybe I should right away. Like, I cannot believe this is happening. So I think that's something, that's feeling that all of us are sharing. After you finish that exam, you just feel devastated. You have a feeling, what I was doing for the last few months, I didn't know anything on the exam, but we're not even aware. And as you said, I think especially IMGs, we just don't give credit to ourselves. We just always question, do I belong here? Am I good enough for this? Like, you are.
Yes, 100%.
We just,
yeah, like,
it's really important to encourage each other, you know.
Yeah. Sorry, my dog's just barking at everyone. Loki, come here. Yeah, it's just like, we need to give ourselves more credit, especially as IMGs, because we're doing this exam on top of whatever we're doing in our country. So, like, you know, like, a lot of people in the US sit this exam, but their med school prepares them for it, whereas ours doesn't. Loki, come here. Come here. Sorry. But yeah, I think we're gonna answer some questions and stuff, right? Sorry, let me just grab him.
Yes.
I'm sorry, guys.
Yes. So please, you can ask in this box down. I don't know, is it a box or something? You can ask anything you want to know about step 1, step 2, even OAT, because I actually passed OAT recently, like a month ago. So if you have any questions, you can just type it here and we'll try to answer it. Maybe I'm
going to go through the questions.
I love this. Thank you. I'm studying.
Lots of thank yous. Okay, so what do I have to do for the USMLE?
Is that a question?
Yes.
What you have to do for USMLE? Why I don't see that question?
I think I'm getting some of the questions because I'm on the Metro Resident account, so.
Yeah, I see some questions here. What's the best way to prepare? So I see one question. I'm studying for step 2. What's the best way to prepare? I can answer that.
Yeah, sure.
So for step 2, it would be the best if you just passed your step 1 recently. That's the best option because I think you'll need less time to prepare. For step 2, I think both of us just used UWorld, and I passed UWorld almost 3 times actually, 2 times for sure, and then for the 3rd time I just passed like question I got wrong, like marked questions, and that's it. I actually didn't use anything else. I just reviewed some topics from first aid from step 1, like immunology, glycogen storage diseases. I'm not really sure. Some things that I felt unsure of, and I scored good on step 2. So I think if you focus on UWorld, it's more than enough to have a really nice score. I hope that helps.
Yeah, I agree with that. For step 2, UWorld is honestly more than enough. And like if you could do it more than once, then great, because a lot of the step 2 exam questions were, like, I felt shorter than the UWorld questions. UWorld was quite in depth with a lot of their questions.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So another question was, sorry, my dog just is barking and barking. Can you explain how we can apply for USMLE and the things required from our medical school? So I can answer that as well. Sorry.
Yes, please.
So if you want to apply for the USMLE and what you need for your med school, I am so sorry. Oh my goodness. You know what? Give me 1 second.
Okay.
Please stop it.
So we'll just wait for her to come back.
Go get it. Go.
I know you need diploma, or in my case, I didn't have diploma. Okay, she's back.
Sorry. Okay, so when I applied for USMLE, I had to first get ECFMG paperwork sorted for my medical school. So not every medical school is ECFMG registered. You have to make sure that your medical school is registered with ECFMG. And then you have to fill in, I think it's form 186. Was it 186 or 182, the form that you have to fill?
86.
Yeah, so you have to fill that form with all your paperwork, your documents. Your medical school also has to fill a form and submit it to ECFMG. And then after that, when they approve that form, then they will let you know that you can apply for the USMLE. And that's when you buy and pay for a USMLE permit to apply for the USMLE. And then you can sit the exams. And I would say to give yourself at least 2 months for that whole process, because it took a while for my medical school to submit everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, is there anything else you want to add to that, or that's about?
I just want to add for graduate students, because I was a graduate when I was applying and I didn't have my diploma, because in my country, for some reason, we were waiting for our diploma for more than a year. And I was a graduate, but I didn't have any proof of that. So I actually had to ask for a graduation letter that my dean was supposed to sign. And then I was able to apply for step 1 with that graduation letter. And I had to submit my diploma once I get it. So if you're a graduate student, be sure to have already your diploma in English as well. Or if you're waiting for your diploma, like in my case, then you can request a graduation letter from your school.
Okay. So a question that was asked directly to the Metro Resident account was, can I do step 2 before step 1?
Yes.
Simple answer. Yes, you can.
You can. I think it's easier if you take step 1 first, because you will have knowledge for step 2 that's going to help you a lot. But you can, if you want to do step 2 first, you can.
Yeah, I know a few people who did step 2 first because they felt like they can get the clinical stuff done and then go back and revisit basic sciences. But like Tanya said, once you do step 1, you have all your basic knowledge, and then you can do step 1. Then when you're done with it, like a few weeks after, you can do step 2. So research tips as an undergraduate. So for me, I did quite a bit of research as an undergraduate. So definitely look into whether or not, you know, like your school, not medical school, but your school has summer research scholarships, research projects that you could do, and to speak to people in your school, like even in the science department, about the type of research they're doing and offer to help them, especially a lot of lab-based research, because a lot of people do want help for lab-based research, and that's a very easy way to get your name onto publications and papers. Just like putting yourself out there and emailing people, that's the way to go for research, really.
Thank you. I
This one's for you because I didn't do the OET. I did step 2 CS, but there are a few questions about the OET. So how long did you study for the OET?
Okay, I can tell you everything about OET, just my experience, just to underline that. So OET is occupational English test, and I think the time of preparation depends a lot of your knowledge of English language. I think my English is quite fine, so I actually prepared just for a week, maybe even less. I think the worst thing for me was writing, because I'm a terrible writer, you can't imagine. So I had to practice writing those referral letters and everything else, but once you write a couple of letters, you just get used to it. It's all the same, so it's not really hard. So I would suggest to practice writing a lot. Also, for speaking, it's really important to find some partner. You can also find it online. I found it online. Some people, there is an OET Facebook group where you can just ask, does anybody is studying for OET? I need a partner for speaking. And it's really important to just practice with somebody, because you approximately have 5 minutes for speaking and you have to role plays. And it's not really hard. You just need to get used to it and not to be nervous on your exam day. For listening and reading, I'm not sure I'm the best person to advise, because I just did sample tests from OET official website that you can find. Just type OET official, and when you go on their websites, they have sample tests for all listening, reading, speaking, and writing. And I just did those sample tests, and I figured out that I'm good at it, that I'm having a passing score, so I didn't even practice that. But if you feel you need help with it, I would still ask on that Facebook group, because a lot of people are preparing for the same exam, and then you can just practice together. I think that's really beneficial for everybody. So if you have any other question, I can answer. It's 4 hours test, around 4 hours. So I hope I answered everything.
That sounds very different to the step 2 CS back in the days when 2 CS was a thing.
Yes, it is different. They did add for speaking, it's not just about your language skills. They did add some bedside skills like empathy and everything else that was actually the same in CS. But it's just like 5 minutes to role plays. It's not really hard to get used to it, you know. You just repeat the same phrases all over again. So I think that's something that it's not really hard to prepare for if you have some good level of English. So English is not my native, obviously. So, you know, I think even for IMGs.
That's helpful. Thanks so much. And I hope that helps everyone else who was asking about the OET. Okay, the next question. In terms of experiences like electives, research, and abstracts, how early should we start working for them, and how important is it for them to be relevant to the specialty we apply to? Okay, so I guess we can both share our experiences. So for me, I did US clinical electives in anesthesiology, and that was really, really important for applying into anesthesiology. So I would say for your US clinical experience, it's important to do it in the specialty you're applying into. In terms of research, I had publications and like poster presentations in public health, so completely unrelated to anesthesiology. But Loki, please. Yeah. But and that was fine. Like, as long as you have any research in your application, it doesn't need to be to the specific specialty you're applying into, except if you're applying to a subspecialty. That's when you need your research to be. I'll let you share your experience.
Okay, thank you. So in my case, I was actually not involved in research during my med school. I did write some paper during my med school, but it was not published, so I'm not even sure I will include that in my US application. But after graduation, I did publish 3 review articles that I wrote myself. I don't know how that happened. I just look up for some courses online to learn how to write the paper, and I wrote it, and they're like PubMed index, so you can actually do it. Like I didn't know anything about research, so I just start looking for some courses to learn everything I need to know, and I just start writing, and that's it. And regarding US research experience, I do not have any, but I do strongly believe that for internal medicine, that's not something that it's necessary. I think for anesthesia is way more beneficial if you have a research. But for internal medicine, I personally know a lot of people who did match without any research experience. So it's obviously a plus if you have it, it's perfect for you. But if you don't have it, don't bother, you still have a chance to match.
Yeah.
And I didn't have a research experience in US, but I did do 2 different rotations for 3 months. And that's it actually for my US experience.
I also just wanted to reiterate what you said. So I think it's really, really important for everyone to remember that research is not necessary for matching. Everyone feels like research is necessary for matching, but it isn't, because like a lot of people I know who match as IMGs don't have research. But it is very important if you're applying into things like plastic surgery or orthopedic surgery or neurosurgery, like dermatology, like really, really subspecialized specialties, like you would need research. But things like other more general specialties, research is not as important. And like for me, even though anesthesia is pretty competitive, my research wasn't in anesthesiology, it was in public health. But it was in the US, and I did get US research because I sent emails to like 30 different professors around the US. I just all emailed them, like, I'm interested to do research, like, would you be interested in taking me for research, blah, blah, blah. And one replied out of the 35 or something that I emailed. So always try.
Yeah, exactly. And I just want to address some other problem as well. For me personally, and I think there's a lot of IMGs with the same problem, visa is huge problem, especially in this pandemic. So a lot of us, I'm lucky enough to have visa. I'm now in US, but before I got my visa, it's really hard to find and to look for research opportunities or any clinical rotations if you don't have visa, because a lot of opportunities are unpaid, and it's a really financial blow if you have to be somewhere for 6 months and you're not getting paid for it. So I think that's also a very big obstacle why a lot of IMGs cannot join a research program, because it's just for too long and we're not getting paid and we don't have proper visas, so the institution has to sponsor our visas. So it's the whole new problem if you don't have a green card or if you're not citizen. I think that's also very limiting for visa requiring IMGs.
Yeah, definitely. And like again, if you do want to do US research and email researchers, definitely ask them if you could do a lot of it like online or over the internet, because if you don't have a visa to come here, that's an option for you to do. And some institutions would accept a tourist visa for you to come and do like a short period, and you can go back to your home country and do everything else, but just come to the US for the data collection.
Exactly. Nice.
Okay. Next question is, will a low step 1 score be a big disadvantage next year? I think that like a low step 1 score has a lot of different ways to like improve on. I think you can definitely, improve your step 2 CK score, improve on other things, like for example, research, like we're talking about, having US clinical experiences. So like Tanya and I've been saying is that don't let your step 1 score define you, because there are so many ways you can build your application.
Exactly. I agree completely.
Next question. I'm using my LORs from last year. Is this okay applying this cycle? There are pretty strong LORs, I believe.
Sorry, I was reading other questions. Can you repeat that?
No, that's fine. So I'm using my LOR from last year. Is it okay to use that for this cycle? They're pretty strong LORs. From my point of view, yes, because I used LORs that were 3 years old.
Yes, for my point of view, I agree. I'm just not sure because you had to buy ERS token again. I think they should be uploaded again, if I'm correct. But you can definitely use older LRs for sure.
And
the specialty we apply for. What research as a commercial? What's the best source where we can study? Best source for what specifically? I'm not sure.
okay.
If you ask best source for USMLE, it's UWorld,
Yeah,
but I'm not
100%.
sure.
If it's for USMLE, it's definitely UWorld. Did you find it difficult to get your top choice residency positions being a non-US citizen, and how did you secure experience before? Yeah, it is very difficult to get get into a top choice residency program. But in terms of securing experience before, for me, doing my USCE here in the US for 1 month was a big help because that gave me letters of recommendations as well as people who were willing to make phone calls for me during interview season. So, you know, when I had my interviews, I told my mentors and they're like, oh, we'll make a phone call to tell them like we know you and then we'll vouch for you. So again, US clinical experiences are very important in for non-US IMGs. I think that's the most important thing for non-US IMGs.
Yeah, I agree. We just need to get with the system.
Okay, next one is, can you give us some tips to improve our CV?
So I think we mentioned a lot of stuff already. So you can try to be a part of some research program. You can try to publish some abstract or article. Also, US clinical experience, very, very important. So if you don't have US clinical experience, try to find some. There's also a lot of free ones that you can search online, or also you can use a Facebook groups where you can inform yourself about a lot of different opportunities. And you can continue, and I can add later. She left again.
I'm sorry, my dog is just like going crazy because he just woke up from his nap and he wants to play.
Maybe he's hungry.
Yeah, he wants to play.
Okay, you can add something more.
Okay, so next question. So there's still about like 10 questions to go through, so we'll just continue going through these questions. How about your year of graduation? Does it matter? I know a lot of programs say things like 5 to 10 years is what they prefer. I had when I applied, I was already a 3-year post-graduation. And I think you're also going to be 3 years this year or 2?
2 years. Okay. But I don't think, like, they do prefer if your year of graduation is 5 or less, or 5 to 10, but that's why you're using Metro Resident to like explore the programs, and then you can see which program require that. So if they require, and if they specify that they actually prefer students who graduated not more than 5 years ago, then you will not apply to that program. So it's really important to use those tools to make a program list that you're actually comfortable with. You know, it's crazy to apply to some programs that you really maybe don't have high chance of getting an interview, you know. So we have to be aware of our resume or our CV, our experience, our scores, and to apply to proper programs, because I think then we just increase our chances in getting more interviews.
And like also, if you feel like you're a good applicant and have good scores and, for example, good CVs and good reason to apply, even if you're post 5 years, 10 years, there is no harm in applying and then sending a letter of intent saying like, this is why you feel like you should be considered. Because I know people who are applying to residency programs who are 10, 15 years post-grad who are moving from abroad to the US. And if you have a great CV, they would still consider you. So like, if you feel like if you feel like you'll be a good candidate, don't be afraid to apply.
You're not losing anything if you try. So definitely, if you have some specific location, institution where you want to get matched, definitely try. So you never know.
Okay, so there's a few other questions about OET, but I feel like we've answered like OET related questions. So
I do have a lot of information about OET on my page, so you can just later check out. I wrote a bunch of information about OET if you have more questions about it.
So what research to do to get general surgery as an IMG? So I know quite a few IMGs who match into general surgery and they actually don't have research. I know a lot of people think that general surgery requires research, but it's actually a pretty IMG friendly specialty, general surgery. But like surgical subspecialties like ENT, plastics, ortho are a lot more competitive. So if you're applying to general surgery, there is also a lot of preliminary general surgery positions that IMGs match into, and then they reapply the second year. And most IMGs who apply a second year will get a position because they have now done a full year in the US. So I personally know a lot of non-US IMGs who match general surgery without research. But if you want to do research, just like reach out to general surgery doctors here or in your home country. Even having home country research in general surgery would help, or in any of the specialties you're applying to. So don't feel like, because everyone's talking about this on the internet, I need to do it. Like it's actually surprising how many people don't have research when they apply.
Yes, I completely agree. Internet is a crazy place.
Yeah.
You can info on it, but also, oh my God, there is so many misinformation as well. So yes, I completely agree with that.
Okay, so I found a really expensive observership. Is it worth doing? I think that's a really personal choice. I don't know what you think.
Yeah.
I think it's a personal choice. Like if it's an observership that will give you good letters and connections, like is it something you can afford personally? So like I'll just like for me, when I did my clinical rotation in my 1 month, it was expensive. It was the tuition fee alone was about $3,000, and then I had to pay for living expenses and flights, etc. So
yes,
personal.
I also believe it's completely personal. If you can afford, go for it. Like I have experience available here in US. In my case, I was actually looking just into free opportunities. So I did find 2 clinics that was free, and I had a great experience, and it was actually hands-on. So I think I was really lucky to find, and actually just find it online. Like I didn't have anyone to.
Yeah, like if you Google IMG friendly like observerships or IMG friendly electives, there's actually quite a lot online. I remember finding a lot when I was looking as well.
Exactly. So it's individual. If you can afford it, go for it.
Okay, do you think biomedical research would be a good thing to invest time and money into for matching into internal medicine?
Well, as I said, I think any research is a plus, and it's something that you can discuss about on your interview. So I cannot find any negative aspect of it, but also I believe it's personal choice. Like if you really want to be a part of that research and if you're passionate about it, of course do it. But I'm not sure if we can tell you do it or not do it, but it's definitely going to be a plus for your application. Like my opinion.
Okay, so should we do research before or after graduation for anesthesia? If you can do it as a med student, then do it as a med student because that's when you're going to have the most time. Once you work as a resident or an intern or whatever, you don't have as much time. But if you can do it as a med student, then do that because you can put it in your CV when you apply that you've done all of these research. If you can't and you want to do it after, like you gap and applying, that's fine too. That's not really like a time that you have to do it by, I think. To follow up on the point you made about emailing researchers, I've been finding phrasing those emails very difficult. Do you read their general body of work? So I actually shared my template of what I wrote for research on my Instagram page as well, and you can download my template if you want to use it, or you can send me a DM and we can talk about it in more details. But I kind of just like explain why I want to do research, what my research topic and ideas was, and then told them why I chose them or like what their interest is and why it matches up with mine. So yeah, like if you want my template, just feel free to reach out to me. Um, please suggest to me how to start preparation for USMLE. Okay, so we kind of spoke about that, but I guess, do you want to summarize like USMLE preparation?
Yeah, they're probably tune in late. So for USMLE step 1, you're using UWorld and first aid. Start with UWorld as soon as possible. Do it simultaneously with first aid. It doesn't matter how long you need to prepare. Just be sure you're prepared before you go to exam. Do self-assessments. Go to exam. You'll feel miserable after the exam. That's okay. That's normal. Everybody are feeling the same way. Doesn't mean you failed the exam. For step 2, my advice is to do it as soon as possible after step 1. For step 2, both of us just used UWorld, and it was more than enough for a good score. Learn from UWorld. It's not assessment tool, it's for learning. It's a learning tool. Make notes. You can even make notes in UWorld or flashcards. I didn't do like handwritten notes, so that was really helpful. Pay attention on any table in UWorld. Anything can help you. And I think that's it. So UWorld.
Yes, UWorld. Your dog said he wishes us good luck on the match. Yes, that is exactly what he was saying. Next question is, this is for you. So how to write review article by yourself and get published? How did you go about that?
Okay, so you can actually text me about it on my Instagram page, because if I start talking about it now, it's gonna be way too long. I needed I don't know how many courses I found online, some free ones, I paid for some, I just needed some guidance how to write a research paper. And because at the time I was not working in a hospital, so my only option was to write a review article. And I actually wrote it for more than a month, I think. It was my first article, so I had no idea where to start. Plus, I'm speaking English, and I already said I'm a terrible writer. So, but it can be done. So you can just text me on my Instagram page. I don't know if you see it. It's like Medicine Made Easy. And then I can help you with that, and I can give you some guidance if you need help. So you can try to do it as well.
That's awesome. And that's so cool that you managed to do that. So yeah, everyone who wants to do that, reach out to Tanya. How did you guys connect to your US CEs? Was it through your medical school or the US hospital themselves? I heard things about online organizations that are scams. So for me, I, like Tanya as well, I Googled for IMG Friendly's US clinical electives and hospitals. I found a list of them. There are lists online, and I can also send you some of these lists that I have. And I ended up going through a US hospital. There are organizations, I actually know people who have used organizations and have spoken highly of these organizations. So if that's something that you want to do, again, you can reach out and we can tell you if that's something that I've heard of people using. So for me, mine was at a US hospital.
Yeah. I heard about the agencies, of course, but I didn't actually use any of that kind of organization because they're kind of pricey. I don't say it doesn't worth it. Probably it worth it. I just didn't use it. I actually, because I did my not observership, it was like hands-on in the middle of pandemic. I actually did it in a private clinic, but it was amazing experience because we actually did everything. We even had our account in electronic medical records, and we did our soap notes and everything. So, a lot of IMGs think less about private clinics, but to be honest, my experience was very good, and I had a freedom to do a lot by myself, and I think it was very, very beneficial for me, and that I learned a lot, even though it was a private clinic. It's a big private clinic, so anyways, it's outpatient clinic. So that's also an option. Probably it's better if you do it in a hospital, of course, but this is also an option. And you can also ask for a LOR from those kind of doctors from a private clinic. So I think you could just Google it and you can find a bunch of opportunities, and you can start sending your emails or asking in Facebook to find some other people who did a rotation there just to check for experiences. And that's it.
And also just want to add, don't be afraid to reach out to people someone that who's already in the US, like friends of friends, because you'd be surprised how many doctors are willing to take students to shadow them, observe them, even let them do things at their practices.
Yes. exactly.
And then to continue on the US clinical experience as well. So how many months is the minimum for a good clerkship? So from my point of view and my experience, I only did 1 month and that was enough for me. And I know people who've only done 2 weeks and still manage. So I think it's just like the quality of it rather than the quantity of it, because if you have a good rotation, you have good letters and good mentors, it changes everything.
Yes, I agree. I had 3 months, and when I checked on Metro Resident, there are some programs that prefer like 3 months or longer, but most of the programs do not have a requirement of the duration of US clinical experience. So as you said, I think it's important that it's an experience that you really learned something, and it was really like beneficial for you. It doesn't matter if it's like 1 month, 3 months, a year. Of course, it's better if it's longer, but it doesn't not match if you didn't have time. Yeah.
Can we get hands-on as a graduate? Well, you went as a graduate and you were hands-on.
So the thing is, depends on your visa. So if you're on tourist visa, as I am, we did hands-on, but we did not have freedom to examine the patients. So we didn't do any invasive physical examination. We just we were talking with patients. Our assignment was to take histories and to make SOAP notes. And just making SOAP notes was really, really beneficial because I did not do that. And you just get familiar with the US health system, with electronic medical records. And we were also presenting the case to doctors, and we were discussing the plan, the treatment. We were ordering labs, ordering imaging. So it was hands-on, but with that difference that I did not really touch the patients. So if you have a green card, you can have a hands-on if you're a graduate. But if you are on tourist visa, I think there is not a lot of places who will let you actually touch the patients.
But like you said, writing SOAP notes and stuff are so important because it shows a doctor like how you think clinically, and that's how they write your letters of recommendation, because it's like assessing your clinical skills, even though it's not hands-on. Okay, that's one more question. So can we do research through the internet, like to do research in US while studying in home country? Is that possible, and how can we do that? Yes, it is possible. There are people that offer that. There's also ways to go about it. So like I said, when I did my research, I technically didn't have to come to the US for it. I think I could have, because they gave me, I did all my training online, even for the IRB and ethics, and I could have done it from home if I wanted to, but I chose to come here so that I could also network with people. So there are definitely ways around it. It's hard to find them because not everyone's willing to share their data with you over the internet. So definitely writing a good email, explaining to them why you want to do research with them is, I think it's a step into being able to do that. Again, if you want this research email template, just reach out to me and I can help you with that.
Yes.
So there's one more question. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, don't get discouraged if you don't get an answer. Just send another email.
Yes.
That's gonna happen.
Absolutely. Because I said 35 or 30 something, and I got one reply. So I was like, oh my gosh, no one wants me, but then one reply. And one reply makes a huge difference. So
exactly.
The last question on here is it okay to have an observership in a different field to what you plan on applying to?
I think it's not a big of a problem. I think just my point of view, and I think it's important if you have 3 LORs, that one is from your specialty of choice, and other 2 can be a different specialty. It doesn't matter. It actually shows, for example, if you're applying for internal medicine and you have a LOR from cardiologist, let's say, it just shows that you're so ready to learn other things as well, and maybe that's some person that work closely to you and knows you the best, and it's better to have a letter from that kind of person who knows you really well and who is ready to write you a strong LR than to have internal medicine specialist to write a very weak LR because he doesn't really know you and he didn't really work with you closely. I don't know what you think about it.
So I agree with you. If you're doing medicine and getting a cardiology letter or something like that wouldn't be detrimental to your application. But if you are, for example, applying for ENT and then you get an internal medicine letter, then that wouldn't look great.
Yeah,
and
of
if
course.
so like if you're applying to something that you know is more competitive and a subspecialty, you need to get your letter from that specialty. Because I've had friends who applied with letters from different specialty, and I think in the interviews it does come out like, oh, so you have a letter from this specialty, like what is actually your interest and what do you want to apply to, because you have like a mixture of specialties. So
yeah, I always like, I agree. I always think when I talk about those stuff, it's like everybody knows that. Of course, if you're applying for dermatology, you will not have LR from neurology.
yeah.
Like that's,
Yeah,
you know,
definitely.
I think we can all like agree on that.
So there's one more question. Does observership help for general surgery residency?
If it's in US, I think yes. Like everything that you do in US.
Yes, I agree with you. Like any US experience, whether it's elective, observership, externship, research, will help. I think the fact that you have a US experience will show them that, okay, this person is willing to come here to like check out the system, like work with people. So I think having a US experience is so important.
Agree.
So there's one more question. Last question for me. Through these resources like UWorld, First Aid Pathoma, Kaplan Notes, if we forget information from med school and now plan USMLE and study only USMLE resources, will we skip any information for USMLE?
Or we skip any information. So if I understood correctly, they're saying if they forgot some information from like their lectures and studying,
that's what
can
I
they
understand.
just use?
Yeah, I think it's fine because
So,
like you studied for step one after you finish med school. I mean I studied in the end of med school, but step one is so different. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, let's take an example. For example, I had biochemistry on my second year, and I started studying for USMLE 7 years afterwards. Do you think I remember biochemistry? No, I didn't. And I did not go back to my books because I throw away those books. And I just used UWorld and First Aid. So if you forgot anything from your med school, it's completely fine to use these resources. It's going to be enough for your exam. So don't overwhelm yourself with a bunch of resources. I think that's also a common mistake. If you have a bunch of resources, then you cannot focus on important ones, and then you just get lost in all those resources and books and everything. So just focus on UWorld, First Aid, and supplement with some other for some specific topics if you need help.
Yeah, definitely. Like I think when you study for step one and USMLE, think of it as starting scratch completely, because you'll forget a lot of things from med school, but also there's so many things that you never learned before that's in USMLE.
Yes.
So just start from scratch, and if you start from scratch and like use the resources, you'd actually learn a lot, because like, okay, like these are new things for me to learn and understand.
Yeah, I had a feeling I graduated again.
Yeah, I know. I felt like I was relearning all of medical school.
Yeah.
And then that's one more question. Two more questions actually. So can I study for USMLE from second year in medical school? Yes. Yeah, you can. You can study whenever you want to, really, but second year med school is probably a good time because a lot of things will overlap.
Yes.
And then can you please repeat the application process for step one as an undergraduate student? So I don't think it matters if you're undergraduate or postgraduate medical student. Like the step one application process is the same for all. So like we said, apply to ECFMG. Make sure your medical school is registered to ECFMG, because if they're not, they need to get registered, and that takes time. And then form 186 we said, fill in that form, give yourself up to 2 months. Once you're approved for ECFMG, then you can apply for USMLE, and then you get your permit for USMLE, and that's when you can start applying for the whole thing.
Yeah, I think we can mention also on ESMFG website, you can find something which is called, I think, ESMFG booklet, and it's like 8 pages long, and there's everything explained, the whole process of application. I also found that way too late. So everything explained, it's explaining like easy steps.
Stepwise, yeah.
Yes, so you can just find the ESMFG booklet, and you can download it in PDF, and you can just follow those steps.
And it tells you which forms you need if you're like a student still in med school, if you've finished med school, and then also forms that your medical school needs to fill, because your med school does need to fill a separate form to the one you submit. So make sure that's done, because some people submit their own form and then the med school forget to submit a form, and then it's all messy.
And just remember, it takes time. It's not going to happen in one day. It takes time, a lot of time.
Up to 2 months it took for me to get mine approved. So
yeah, don't even get me started with that. Like,
yeah, so if you guys want to reach out to either of us for anything else, any questions that we couldn't answer today, or any clarification or questions, you're more than welcome to. That's why we're both here. We just want to help you guys, especially as non-US IMGs who've been through it. So I think our Instagram handles are on the Metro Resident page, but then this live will be shared later and we will tag our Instagram handles on there as well, so you can reach out to us at any time.
Yes, feel free to message me. I'm trying really to answer all the messages.
Me too. I'm trying my best to answer between work and being an intern. So just, reach out to us at any time. And I know someone said they wanted to see my dog, but I let him out to the yard, so I'm sorry. But he is very cute.
He is cute. I saw him.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. We hope we help you, and thank you for joining us.
Bye.
Bye.